Welcome back. Here is your host and narrator Metal, and today we will be evolving, moving on with introducing my universe world within, which I was working for the last year. Now it is year zero, and this is Book of Life and First Founding Part One. This universe does not begin with people crawling out of mud and guessing how fire works. That is the first thing to understand about 17 worlds, or this world within. Year zero is not the beginning of ignorance, it is the beginning of responsibility. The founding people are not empty, helpless, confused creatures thrown into the hostile world with nothing but fear. They begin with knowledge, tools, trained people, and a burden placed directly into their hands. That burden is the book of life, as you can see via the image. Every species receive a book of life at the beginning of the mortal history. That means the year zero. These books are not decorative holy texts. They are not vague prophecies. They are not temple properties meant only for priests. They are civilization survival engines. They explain who the people are, what world they are placed on, what other people exist. That means what other species, what the divine order is, what monsters and are, what the world portals mean, how society may be built, how craft works, how resources should be used, how danger must be understood. A prophecy says something may happen one day. A book of life says this is how reality works. Now prove you can live inside it. That difference shapes the entire settings. The prime archangel of Gaia gives the book of life to the founding species, that means all of them, on 17 worlds. From that moment, no civilization can honestly say the universe gave it nothing. The founders know the wider structure exists. They know there are other worlds. They know the world portals are real. They know the portals will not open immediately. But they also know isolation is temporary. They understand that the first 500 years are not the eternity, that they are preparation. This creates a very different but kind of fantasy history. These people do not slowly invent the idea that other races might exist. They know. They do not tread dungeons as fairy tales. They know. They do not stumble blindly into magic, alchemy, law, runes, portals, divine order, or monster ecology. They begin with enough knowledge to survive, but not enough wisdom to avoid every mistake. That is important. Knowledge does not make people perfect. A book of life can explain sanitation, but some must still keep waste away from drinking the water. A book can explain crop rotation, but hunger can still push people into short term greed. A book can warn rulers about against the abuse, but power still tempts them. Greed, that is. A book can teach rote law, military discipline, alchemy, and magic safety, but a lazy clerk, a corrupt noble, a proud mage, or a desperate village elder can still ignore what is written. So, the Book of Life reduces that ignorance. They do not erase the character, or it erases the character. That is why the year zero is not an utopia. It is not everybody has the manual. Therefore, everyone becomes wise. It is closer to reality, meaning people can be told the truth and still refuse it when the truth becomes inconvenient. The Book of Life is the foundation. Civilization still has to be built by hand, memory, discipline, and consequence. The first founding populations are also not tiny symbolic couples. Most species begin with about 2,000 founders. That means 1,000 female and 1,000 male, roughly balanced between male and female population, as I said. That is large enough to begin a real society. It gives them elders, children, families, hunters, farmers, warriors, smiths, healers, builders, scouts, priests, alchemists, apprentices, and people who already know practical roles. The elven lineage begins with much larger population, about 12,000 each, male and female. Because of their long lives, culture, complexity, and social development, need more depth from the beginning. That matters because the settings is not treating all species as the same body with a different skin. Founding numbers, settlement pressure, growth speed, and cultural memory all affect how a specific civilization develops. That means, in a plain English, how each species develop. Let's say Taurin, dwarves, uh, orcs, humans. The founders receive tools, but not endless luxury. They receive practical survival packages, durable tools, preserved food, medical supplies, craft equipment, defensive gear where appropriate, and the basic means to begin work. They are not handed finished cities. No one gets a perfect kingdom dropped out of the sky. Someone still has to cut timber, build walls, dig wells, repair handles, guard animals, preserve grain, and keep children alive. That is the real test of the year zero, the beginning of them all. Not whenever people can survive one dramatic monster attack, but whenever they can turn in structure in continuity. That means that they can read the book from year zero and they can adapt. The starting locations are also not random when each species starts. Each species passes into a suitable land. Dwarves begin in a stone and mountain systems. Dragonborn and kobolds begin in a volcanic and mineral regions suited to their identity. Halfling, Tuskar, turtles, and Triton begin on Etheria, a world of rivers, coasts, farms, water, food, and community. Taurin and other people of Aravos begin across plains, mesas, migration, routes, hidden valleys, river zones, and spirit geographic suited to their bodies and traditions. The point is not that every start is easy. The point is that every divine founding does not waste people by placing them directly into impossible death. Early predator presume around the first zones is low. That means wolf level danger may exist, but the first settlement are not placed beside S rank horrors on day 3. The world is dangerous later. It is not designed to instantly erase the first generation before history can be begin and be written. This makes the founding feel more grounded. A civilization fails because it mismanages trust, food, law, greed, defense, ecology, leadership, or magic. It does not fail because the author dropped a dragon on the nursery for spectacle. The Book of Life also teaches that world portals exist. This is one of the strongest ideas in the settings, which I will tell in the future. From the beginning, people know there are other worlds beyond their own. They know the network will open in the future. They know they are alone for now, but not forever. That changes how they build, how they live. Roads begin to point towards dormant portal planes. Fortresses are planned with future contact in mind. Markets imagine goods that no one has yet seen. Priests warn against ignorance. Scholars copy and interpret portal sections. Children grow up hearing that strangers beyond the sealed arch are real, not myths, not legends. A sleeping portal is not useless. It is a future with a location. So when we talk about year 0 in 17 worlds, we are not talking about primitive blank state. We are talking about the first moment of informed pressure. The founders are giving knowledge, tools, starting numbers, suitable land, and warning. Then the universe watches what they do with it. That is the heart of the first founding. Nobody begins with nothing, but nobody is saved from consequences. A useful way to think about this that year 0 creates responsibility before it creates history. A village elder cannot say, "We had no warning," when the Book of Life explained the food shortages. A young warrior cannot say no one knew monsters existed when the Book of Life explained mysteries and danger signs. A ruler cannot pretend the portal is only a local monument when Book of Life named the wider network. But the Book of Life also cannot force a person to be honest. It cannot stop envy at the council fire. It cannot make a lazy settlement repair its fence before the winter. It cannot force a proud culture to listen when a quiet specialist giving boring but correct advice before the disaster strikes. That gap between the instruction and behavior is where the drama lives. So the year 0 gives the settings a clean foundation without making it childish. The people are not stupid. The world is not empty. The gods are not absent. Yet failure still remains possible because failure usually does not come from knowing nothing. It comes from knowing enough and still choosing badly. Thank you very much for listening, and this is a conclusion of the first part. See ya.